Welcome to an Intro to Better Biking. I'm Jana Victor, a Commute Smart Raleigh team member with the City of Raleigh. And I'd like to thank you all for being here. And just in case you're new to our program, we here at Commute Smart Raleigh, we provide advice and assistance to increase the use of various transportation options such as walking, transit, carpooling, van pooling, and even things that wouldn't be considered a traditional commute, but supporting our mission of reducing vehicle miles traveled, such as teleworking, creative work schedules, and parking cash out. And of course, biking, and that's why we're all here, right? And we do this all to help people save money, improve commuter health, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and also more efficiently just use our transportation infrastructure. So I'm excited about our speakers today, but first I did want to pass it on to my coworker, Ann Galam.
Hi, I'm Ann Galam. I'm the other Commute Smart consultant at the City of Raleigh. Thank you all for being here. I wanted to let you know up front, we'll take all the questions at the end. And at that time, you can ask them aloud if you like, or you can write them in the chat anytime you like. So first up, we have Chris Anderson, who is the service manager at Trek at Holly Park. Chris has been in the bicycle industry for over 20 years and has specialty training from the United Bicycle Institute for advanced mechanics and bicycle frame design and construction. He also has the Trek Bicycles Precision Fit Certificate and Specialized Bicycles Body Geometric Fitting Certificate. Chris, please go ahead.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about finding the right bicycle. We're going to be talking about regular bicycles and the new e-bicycles or electric assist bicycles. Finding the right bicycle is going to be a matter of collecting some information from the riders, where they're going to be riding, and all those informations. We connect all that into figuring out what type of bike that rider needs, and based on what their riding style is going to be. So we collect all that information to help guide the rider into the right size bicycle and the right style of bicycle. Questions as simple as, where do you want to ride? How far do you want to ride? Do you want to ride in dirt, pavement, both? How adventurous are you? Do you want to ride for recreation, fitness, or are you an enthusiast who pretty much maybe already knows what they want? We collect all this information to help them find the right style and model of bike. Bicycles are fun in all forms, guys, whether it be a standard mechanical bike or an electric e-bike. Making sure that you get the right one in the right size is very, very important. Can't stress that enough, that you get the right size and the right style for your riding. Standard bicycles, as we all know from what we grew up on as kids, use a standard kind of gears and mechanisms, really just kind of simple, basic style of bicycle. The electric assist or the e-bikes offer the rider an opportunity to go farther and faster. This segment of bicycles has grown hugely in popularity, offering so many different models, and many of them are hard to tell apart from their mechanical siblings. All bikes are made in many different sizes, and based on the rider's height and build, always consult with a professional when doing your research. This goes not only into looking and doing kind of seeing your research on these charts, but getting a second opinion as far as what may be another option for you. And most importantly, guys, ride bike, have fun, feel good. Making sure that you get the right size on the bicycle is super important. So talk with your local bike shop, get an opinion of what kind of bike is going to be the best fit for you, and make sure you get the right size and style. Have fun, feel good, guys. So that's kind of in a snapshot of what we do here at the store. We gather information from the riders. We want to make sure that they get the right style of bicycle, and fitting that person on that bike is really, really critical important, so they have the best experience when they're going out on a bike. Whether it be an electric bike or a standard mechanical bike, making sure you get the right size and style, very critical, guys. Back to you, Ann.
think you're on mute, Ann.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Ah, thank you, Mary. All right. Let's see. Mary Sell is up next. And thank you so much, Chris. She is the interim director of Oaks and Spokes. Mary has been engaged in the Raleigh biking community from day one of calling Raleigh home 6 years ago. Mary previously served on the Raleigh Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission from 2015 to 2021 and has volunteered time with Oaks and Spokes to help accelerate a more people-oriented transportation model for Raleigh. Mary, please go ahead.
Hey y'all, thanks to Ann and Jana for hosting this and for having me here. So I'm here to talk about your bike commute. I think there was a lot of really great advice from Chris, and we'll continue to discuss all of the different ways that you can find the right bike for you. But your bike commute is a component of the whole expedition as well if you are choosing to use your bike to get to work. Next slide, please. So I'm really glad to meet all y'all. I am the interim executive director at Oaks and Spokes. So Oaks and Spokes is the local advocacy organization for those who bike in Raleigh or may want to bike and are interested in that. Next slide. Our leadership team currently consists of myself as the staff member. We also have Nick as our board president. We also have 8 board members that contribute toward the work that we do. And we have lots of volunteers. Just wanted to provide a little bit of information about Oaks and Spokes for you guys. Next slide, please. One thing that we were really excited about this year is we were designated by the League of American Bicyclists as the Club of the Year, which is really a testament to the last 10 years before me of all the volunteer capacity that was created in this organization before I came on as a staff member in January. Next slide, please. So getting into the commute, I think it's really important to kind of think about the realm of possibilities and also not make it too complicated. You know, I think that you can start anywhere with a commute, but we're going to talk about some of the basics, how you can add some friends along for it and add some fun as well. Next slide, please. So back to the basics. Next slide. So gear is kind of the first component that you're going to want to think about. You can be really basic with this. You can grab a backpack that you might already have in your house. As you start to commute more or ride more, you might find that you want different accessories. Just like with anything, accessories can really enhance the experience and make it more fun if you have the right gear. But there are some basics you should start out with, like a front and back light for sure. You can definitely, if you see Ann and Jana out and about over the next few months tabling, they usually have bike lights, and I'm sure that they would be happy to send some your way. You also want to make sure if you're riding, especially in the United States where we have more limited infrastructure, it's always a good idea to protect your head. Not everybody wears a helmet. It's something I choose to do, but that's one consideration. And I have some different options here, from pannier bags to the backpack. But these are some of the essentials that you could consider as you begin a bike commute. Next slide, please. So we already talked about the helmet. A helmet is advised. It's not legally required, I don't think, in the state of North Carolina. It is something that a lot of people, it might make them feel more safe to have a helmet on your head. Next slide, Jana. One thing as an advocacy organization that we really encourage is making our infrastructure be built in a way that doesn't require you to have, elbow pads, a helmet, et cetera, et cetera. The more people we have biking out on the roads and the better infrastructure we have, the less you have the need to mitigate safety concerns by wearing the whole get up with the helmet. So please do plug in and advocate for better biking lanes, which we'll hear from Paul soon. Some great changes coming in the Raleigh area on that front. Next slide, please. We talked about light again, but there are different ways that you can enhance reflection on your bike. If you just go to a local bike shop or Amazon, you can a lot of times find reflective tape. I know my husband has wrapped every bike we own with reflective tape because that helps a car to see from different angles as you're traveling, especially if you are going to be commuting after dark, after the seasons change in the fall. It is a really great idea to have your bike be as reflective and bright as possible so those on the road can see you. Next slide, please. And the lights are extremely important. So this is something from a safety vantage that you really want to be thinking about, whether you're commuting or riding recreationally. That is required actually by state law here in North Carolina to have a front and back light on your bicycle. So something to consider. We have, you can really start anywhere with a bike light. There's definitely a realm of possibilities on the price spectrum. It is nice if you find that you are starting to commute more or ride more to get one that you can recharge versus having to put batteries in. Those are a slightly like mid price range. You'll start to be able to see the US capabilities. And they also get brighter the more expensive of a light that you invest in. Next slide. So if you are thinking about doing a commute to work, Google Maps is a really great initial tool to use to kind of map out your route, see what your options are, and gauge what might be a good option for you to get into work or to a destination like a coffee shop, et cetera. I think this can really transcend beyond commuting to work. And it's something I think as you start to grab your bicycle, you'll find that it is really fun to take it for those short trips around town. Google Maps is a really great starting point. You can see here this second image shows that you can select a biking icon, and that will give you customized directions that are different than what you would get for a vehicle. It will send you on safer and slower streets, greenways, etc. I do advise just using Google Maps as a starting point. Sometimes I have found personally, I guess I'm more risk adverse when I bike. I'm usually biking with my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old, which probably contributes to my risk adversity. I like really low stress streets. Sometimes Google Maps sends me on streets that I would not feel super comfortable on. So it is something that you can tweak over time. You might want to try walking the route, portions of it, pulling it up on Google Maps to see. That's a really great tool. If you just do the little eyedropper with the little guy, or even drive it beforehand just to get a gauge for if you would feel comfortable biking on that route. Next slide, please. One really, really great thing about biking is the biking community. And that's something that as an advocacy organization, we really enjoy working with the whole community. There are so many folks out there that do bike in Raleigh. There are a lot of social rides. I know one of the favorites in Raleigh is Crank Arm. Every Wednesday night does a social ride from their brewery. So this is one of those. I think this is the Pride ride one year that we did. Usually you see like 50 to 75 people on these rides, super fun vibes, and it's a great way to meet new friends and or invite your friends to come along and just make it a community about biking. Next slide, please. Another thing for me as a parent is one thing that's really fun for me is to add my kids. It really changes the dynamic of both the commute or a recreational or utility trip to have them along for the fun. If you live in an urban environment, it's so much easier than finding parking with your kids and, dragging the stroller and everything around. Over time, we talked about different bikes. For me, as a mom with young children, as I was thinking about the bike that I would like, we have a cargo bike, and that makes a huge difference for me logistically because I can throw the kids, the groceries, everything in there. So you'll find over time, I think, if you start, I started basically with a Huffy version of a bike, just like a $200 bike, which is a great way to kind of get a feel for if you enjoy biking. And then over time, as I found that I did enjoy it, and it was something I was really passionate about as I now staff up the local advocacy organization. We have our fleet of bikes has expanded to ones that for different phases of life are most ideal for us. Another fun thing you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here is Jana and Ann and lots of folks who work in the transportation realm here typically it's always bike month, but typically we have bike to work stations. So there's lots of ways that, we try to celebrate in Oaks and Spokes as well as an advocacy organization biking here in our community and make people feel like it is a community. So, grab your friends. And the last one here, I love it when people play jams on their bike. I still don't have like a good setup. That's like something I could add to my bicycle, but people who put lots of my friends, for instance, have little radios that they've added, that you control with your phone. And it's a lot more fun if you got jams. And I think people get a kick out of that too. And they can hear that music coming off of your bicycle as you ride down the road. So that's another way to add some fun. Next slide, please. I also wanted to mention May is Bike Month. We're in the middle of, it's almost 30 events that were planned in partnership with the city of Raleigh and other partners like, Jana and Ann are part of the City of Raleigh as well, but the transportation department and the transportation demand management team over here with the Go Raleigh team. So we have so many really great events. One that's coming up on Sunday actually made me think of some of the things Chris was mentioning with e-bikes. We have a bunch of community members that have electric bicycles. They'll be bringing them over to Gateway Plaza for people to be able to test ride a bike in person, check it out, see if that might be fun. E-bikes are something that we hear a lot about that definitely lowers the barrier for riding. I can tell you, with 2 young kids, when I was hauling the Burley, it was just too heavy for me, and an electric cargo bike has been a game changer for our family. So that might be something that would make biking, a fun experience for you. But please check out all of the different family-friendly events that we have planned for this month. Next slide, please. This is just the final one. This is my contact information and Nick's contact information too, if you ever need to get a hold of us. Thanks a lot, Jana and Ann.
Thanks, Mary. That was great. Appreciate it. Okay, next up we have, before then, I wanted to remind everybody to check out the other free public events that we have this month at raleighnc.gov/bike-month. And I've also put the website in the chat, as well as how to get a bike plan. If you plan to start a bike commute, you can request them from us and we'll develop a plan for you. And then Paul Black actually looks them over for us to make sure that they make sense and they're not too stressful. But next up, we have Michelle Hood. Michelle is the marketing coordinator for Bewegan and oversees marketing for Citrix Cycle. She also develops additional partnerships for bike share in the Raleigh area. Michelle, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk to you about Citrix Cycle, which is Raleigh's bike share program. The City of Raleigh, Citrix, and Bewegan Technologies partner to give you our bike share for the Raleigh area that is constantly growing. Citrix Cycle is a public self-service bicycle rental system for short trips comprising of, we have about 300 bikes across 30 stations. About 70% of our fleet is e-assist, and that gives you an extra boost when pedaling if you're not familiar. We have stations located in downtown Raleigh, southeast Raleigh, and along Hillsborough Street, as well as the Museum of Art. So this is a little bit of stats since we started back in March of 2019. This is a couple days old, so we actually have a little bit more since then, but so far distance traveled since March of 2019 is over 200,000 miles. And we've had almost 90,000 rides. And so far this year, we're actually already hit 40,000 miles for the year and 14,000 rides. This is just some information for plans and pricing. I won't read all of it to you, but that's just giving you some of the options. We kind of have options for everybody. And one thing that we added this year, if you want to go to the next slide, is our access pass. So this is something that's for qualified residents that are currently receiving Section 8 housing, SNAP benefits, Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. You'll be eligible for a Citrix Cycle access pass. So it's a $10 annual membership fee. Membership fees can be paid with debit or credit cards and money orders in the event that someone does not have a bank account. It's actually really simple. All you would do is either mail the money order or drop a money order off at our warehouse, which is also in Raleigh. And with that, you receive unlimited 1-hour rides for the entire year. All right, as far as some of the goals and updates we have for 2021, we are looking to increase the number of bike stations. We're going to increase the number of in-person events now that the world is opening up just a tad bit. So you will see us out in person now. We also launched the corporate discount program, which is something that that's coming up soon. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And as far as expand the ambassador program, we'll speak about that a little bit later. We're also going to increase bike preventative maintenance. We've had a couple of issues with a little bit of vandalism, but we're going to increase some of our maintenance on that and a little bit of the security to ensure that we keep that to a minimum. as well as provide station advertisement and additional sponsorship opportunities. So one thing that I'm pretty sure people don't know is Citrix Cycle is the name of the bike share. However, Citrix actually sponsors only half of the stations. So there is an opportunity for other companies to sponsor the other ones. So that's something that we're looking to do this year as well. So as far as the corporate program, that's the employee wellness benefit. That's something that we're going to be offering to companies. It launched about a month ago. So what you can do, especially if you're working for somewhere private or if you're part of HR or anything, it's an employee wellness benefit. So basically what happens is your company can provide this for you. So what you do is you go online and you can see what the options are as far as what percentage of the discount you want to provide to your employees, and you can sign them up. So say, for example, with you're maybe signing up for benefits if you're doing your open enrollment. This is something that can be provided to your employees, or you can do this monthly. You can have it where it's available at any time. I've had someone sign up recently and they actually are doing it as far as with their open enrollment. So it's a wellness benefit that you can provide that allows them to use the bike share program. As far as with the ambassador program, we are going to expand that as well this month, since we actually have events that we can attend. We're going to have at least 10 additional ambassadors by the end of this year, so we can kind of be all over the place, ensuring that people know how to ride, especially with the e-assist. It can be a big jump for some people, so we just want to make sure that everyone is available, that people are available in order to show people how to use it and that they can do it successfully. And then we also want to be at all of the wonderful events we get invited to. So sometimes they're running concurrently, so that'll give us the opportunity to be everywhere that you are. And that's it for me. This is my contact information if anybody has any questions. Even when it comes to the corporate program and the ambassador program, that would also be fielded to me. So if anybody has any questions, that is my information there. And I saw a question come up, but I'm assuming we're waiting to the end, correct?
That's right. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much. I have a feeling there'll be lots of questions for that one as well. And I see a one for Chris's already, but we're going to save those to the end. But we're almost there. Our last speaker is Paul Black. Paul is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Program Manager for the City of Raleigh. He has more than 20 years of experience working on both planning and GIS. His emphasis is using technology to frame public debates around transportation and land use. Paul, please go ahead.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. I'm going to just give a quick overview of some of the city's recent accomplishments. Next slide, please. So some of the big stuff, we got our very first in-street separated bike lanes last year. They're the first of their kind in the city. If you haven't had a chance to ride on them, they are scattered around town. We have two in downtown. We have the north-south Greenway Connector, which is a one-way pair, part on West and part on Harrington Street. We've got a section of Morgan Street through the heart of downtown, Lineberry Drive, which is in South Raleigh, and Crabtree Boulevard, which is not really North Raleigh. It's still inside the Beltline, but it's right on the edge. It's almost outside the Beltline, just off Capitol Boulevard. These are also our first standalone bike projects in 5 years. We have a busy resurfacing program that has gotten us some bike lanes, but we hadn't done any that were separate in the budget and completely started from the bike and ped staff. These are them. Next slide. Here is that annual resurfacing program. This is really where the bulk of our bike lanes come from. Whenever we resurface a road, we look to see what kind of road geometry we have between the curbs. If we've got space, we'll go ahead and add bike lanes. If we overbuilt the road and there's not significant traffic volume, sometimes we'll remove lanes and change the configuration of the street so that we can fit bike lanes. It's known as a road diet, I think, in terms of the general just use outside of engineering. Next slide. We've also got a capital program that builds a lot of side paths, and some of them that have been in the pipeline for a long time still do conventional bike lanes. We have a couple of them that came online last year. We've got the first part of Yonkers Road, which is the northern section, and then Fox Road and New Hope Church both came online last year. Next slide. Our traffic calming program, which is in a separate department from me, And some people don't like these. They often will have neck downs that force traffic to slow down. They also force bikes into the travel lane, and the bike community doesn't always love that. It sort of depends on where you are in terms of confidence and speed. From our standpoint, as long as we're slowing down cars, which is what these do, these generally tend to be good for bikes. We've got some design tweaks that we're looking to make it a little more bike friendly than it has been based on feedback we've gotten on a couple of projects, including Millburney Road and a recent one on Currituck Drive. Next slide. Bike share. Michelle covered most of it. Again, you can see sort of our stats. I think the key here is that the city is a partner with Bowegan, and we own the hardware. So the stations and the bikes belong to the city, but then Michelle and her staff run them on the day-to-day. So all the maintenance, all the rebalancing, all the marketing, the city just steps back. We just own the hardware. We are looking at doing some station expansion that Michelle covered. We've currently got 4 sites that are actively being developed that would go online hopefully next year. Next slide. So what have we got coming up? We've got the rest of Yonkers Road. We've got the next part of the north-south Greenway connector, which would connect from north up to P Street. We were basically just waiting for the Smoky Hollow construction to come out of the street. We're doing a lot of side path rehab. We're looking at any existing side paths we have and trying to make the crossings, particularly at commercial driveways, feel a lot safer. We're looking at doing some green paint and some additional pavement markings on a number of those. Not all of them, because Bus Rapid Transit is going to be upgrading some side paths along Western Boulevard and some of our other existing infrastructure. And we're waiting for those projects to play out before we do anything. And again, you can see some of the others. The Gorman Connector is a big capital project that's been in the works for a number of years. That is slated to go to construction this summer. And Structure 106, which is not part of my program, it's Parks and Rec. That is the bridge that's been out on the Crabtree Greenway just west of Capitol Boulevard. That is under construction. We are actually going to reroute it for an on-street portion down Ratchford Road. But that is in the works, should be open this time next year. Next slide. Bike lanes we're getting this season. The big news for me is Edwards Mill. And while that's probably not an all ages and abilities facility, we're closing up some gaps for folks that have been using the Edwards Mill bike lanes. This will make them complete all the way from Crabtree Valley Mall to the PNC Arena. So that's a long project, and that is being paid for by NCDOT. They asked the city if we had any desire for bike lanes, and we were able to fit them on the existing curb to curb, which was great. So I don't know, I'll leave it here a minute, let folks look at the map. And the other one that I might point out is Hardemont. We've got existing striped shoulders there, but we've allowed parking. It's a residential neighborhood. We did go ahead and ask council to remove the parking, which is very controversial, but we are looking at coming back and bringing the buffered bike lanes all the way down Hardemont. Particularly because of all the construction on St. Albans, which is the parallel route, we felt like this was pretty important for the bike community at this time. Next slide. Then our first neighborhood bikeways. A lot of folks still use the old numbered routes. They were technically decommissioned by City Council in 2006, but a lot of the signs are still up. I get regular questions about them. OpenStreetMap, which is another place you can go for good bike routing besides Google Maps. Someone has gone in and mapped all of the old numbered bike routes. They're on there. So we're coming back and trying to upgrade that a little bit. We're going to have new wayfinding signage along the routes that tells you how far it is to the next major turn or major destinations. It probably won't be on all of these because they're relatively small, but the Crosstown Bikeway that you see there that parallels Wade Avenue, the LLL connector, which is shorthand for the Leesville Lake Lynn connector. We're going to be coupling that with existing bike lanes on Marvino and Country Lane so that there'll be a bike connection between Lake Lynn all the way to Umstead once the project on Ebenezer Church is completed in about 2 years. And then the hiking trail, which goes through Durant Trails, will be a connection that will get you from the existing bike lanes on Litchford all the way over to what we lovingly know as Mount Trashmore. There will be a little bit that you have to deal with on Durant Road on the sidewalk, but otherwise it will be another connection besides the Greenway that's already there that sort of creates an X. And then finally, the Brentwood connector. Right now, that part of town has almost no bike infrastructure. We are getting bike lanes with the resurfacing on Green Road just north of that. We're also getting bike lanes on Brentwood on the south side of Capitol. In about 2 years, we've got some projects that will be open. One is Trawick Marsh Creek going east from Capitol Boulevard, where that stops. And we've also got a piece on Atlantic from Highwoods going north that will have a side path. This was going to be the gap in the middle of all 4 of those projects. And we're going to go ahead and knock that one out this year and make that one of our initial neighborhood bikeways. And one other I'll point out very quickly, over in the east, Castle Pines is going to be part of a Greenway detour. There's slated to be some major sewer line work in that part of the Neuse River Trail. And I'm working with Parks and Rec to try and make sure that we've got a viable detour route for the duration of that work. So a heads up that that's coming for all you Neuse River Trail users, but the city is doing our best to try and make sure we've got a way around it. Next slide. When you look at it all together, I'm pretty busy right now. I guess that's just the easiest way to put it. Again, there are different levels of facility. Not all of them are going to be all ages and abilities. Some of them are plugging up gaps and we got to take what we can get. But again, it's a long game, and slowly over time, we're going to start filling things in and making it work. And I think that's the last slide. Next slide, just in case. Oh, there we go. I forgot about this one. We did actually have some additional streets that we thought we were going to get done this year, but all of them have proven to be slightly more complicated than we thought for one reason or another. And then Atlantic Avenue, which has been one of our priority corridors that we want to develop, has turned out to be really complicated, and we're looking for ways to try and get that into some more detailed design and cost estimation. Long term, we are probably going to have to seek federal funding for this project, and that means we've got to get it shovel ready, so to speak. And so we're trying to take the first steps to make that happen. Next slide. There we go. That was the last slide. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Paul. And thank you to all the speakers. Appreciate it. We have some questions in the chat, but if you'd prefer to say those aloud, or you have additional questions that you'd like to say aloud, please just turn on your camera like that and ask those as I recognize you. But let's start with the ones in the chat. Let's see. Bill Yoder would like to know, and I believe this is for Chris. I know that many bike shops are pretty busy right now. Are you all insanely busy? Is it wise to make an appointment or just show up and take our chances?
With inventory being really thin right now, we are still getting bikes in. We have a system in place to where we can forecast what bikes are coming in, but knowing what size and what model you need will help forecast those needs as far as size and models. Stop on by. The bikes may not be in store, but we can give you an idea as far as timeline and availability.
So it's okay to just show up, Chris, or
come on by. A lot of people have understand that bikes are kind of thin right now, but our staff is well staffed, so stop on by. No appointment necessary.
Great, thank you. Yeah,
Hi.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious, does that also include service and maintenance work? You know, if I need to have my bike, I don't know, the chain fixed, whatever, do I just show up or should I make an appointment?
Just come on by. We have about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround on most services. If parts are needed, that may take a little bit more time, but most services 24 to 48 hour turnaround.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, for your questions. Let's see. Looks like Scott Lane has a question for Michelle. So do you have any idea or like an approximate of how much a bike station sponsorship might cost?
Sorry, I just realized I'm on mute. I actually don't. And the only reason is because the stations are in tiers. So it actually depends on which station you sponsor and then how many you want to sponsor. If you shoot me an email or give me a call, I can give you, like, it would be based on location and how many you did. Then I could give you an estimate.
Okay, sounds good. Bill Yoder again would like to know, is it okay to take a Citrix Cycle bike on a Go Raleigh bus? And if you'd like me to answer that, Michelle, I can. Otherwise, you're welcome to answer that. Why
Honestly,
don't I
that
go
would be a Go
ahead?
Raleigh question. Yeah, I was about to say, as long as our bike is returned in time, we're fine, but I think that would probably be too heavy for
Yeah,
a bus.
that
I'll
I
let her
think that's
answer that.
probably a more Go Raleigh question. And since Go Raleigh
Yeah.
is our home, I'll go ahead and answer that. And that would be, unfortunately, a no, especially on the e-bikes. They're just too heavy because of the extra weight to put them on the front of the bus, and it can cause some issues. So, and with those e-assists, honestly, you'll get there before you know it. So just go ahead and leave them at the station and hop on the bus. And just a reminder, right now, buses are rear door boarding and the fares are being waived. Okay, let's see.
Hello.
Yes, Bill.
I would like to know, can you generalize that? Are all e-bikes too heavy for the Go Raleigh buses?
I couldn't tell you that for sure, but I would assume, I would probably err on the side of no, because our buses can handle 55 pounds on those bike racks, but that's if the bus is standing still. Once it starts moving, 55 pounds would be a lot with the bounce of the road. So even though the Citrix Cycle e-bikes weigh 55 pounds, we have been told that it's probably not a good idea to put them on the front of the bus.
Oh, that's a surprise to me. That's too bad.
Yeah, I hate that, but that's what we got. It's nice that we've got bike racks for some of the bikes anyways.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for your question, Bill.
Yeah,
Okay,
can I answer
let's see. Oh, another one from Bill. Thank you for all these questions, Bill. What is the relationship between Raleigh Bike Infrastructure and Parks and Rec Greenway Trails Department? Paul, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so we're going through the Greenway Master Plan update, and they've brought in a fair number of us to consult. I know council has given us a direction that they really want to see greenways integrated as part of the transportation system. Parks and Rec Board doesn't always love that. I know I was in a meeting yesterday and they said, we'd like to ban bikes around some of the lake loops, and staff all kind of said, we really can't do that. A, it's not enforceable, and B, you know, our federal partners and council have said, no, the greenways are for transportation. We need to think of a different way to deal with that. That said, I work with my counterpart, Lisa Schiffbauer, in Parks and Rec quite a bit. In fact, we had a one-on-one this morning. We try to do that once a month, just talk about pending projects. I think a great example is that Structure 106 project, where they decided to actually do what will be our first in-street multi-use path. So it's going to look a lot like a separated bike lane, but it's actually going to be a little wider. And it's going to allow our bike lanes allow pedestrians, just for those of you who didn't know, if you have a pedestrian in a bike lane, the pedestrian has the right of way. But we're going to go ahead and formalize that and have a multi-use path down I think it's the east side of Ratchford Drive, down to the dead end. And then they're going to be going through the woods and doing a bridge over the small connecting creek, and then down a sewer easement back to the Greenway. And so the collaboration between Parks and Rec and transportation was really brought out there, because we had to make sure that all of the pavement markings and the things they were doing all met federal standards for road safety.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they all know that I ride the greenways on a regular basis. A lot of times if they have a greenway question, they'll call me because they know I've been there.
And that's why we have him double check our bike plans before we send them out for people that request a commute plan by bike, because he knows a lot about the city and biking. Okay. Oh, here's one from Aaron Moore. What is the difference between a side path and a neighborhood bike route? And that's for Paul.
Yeah, a side path is a fully separated facility that's behind the curb. I think if I had to pick a good example, there's one that runs down Falls of Neuse from the Neuse River Trail almost down to North Hills. And it's better in some sections than others. A lot of times they will be asphalt. They'll be wider than your normal sidewalk. Some of our older ones maybe aren't quite as wide as they need to be. Western Boulevard and even Avent Ferry Road come to mind there. But we have a lot of them around the city. A neighborhood bikeway is in the street. It's going to be through residential neighborhoods with 25-mile-an-hour or occasionally a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. We're going to be mostly delineating those with pavement markings, sharrows for the folks that know them, and additional signs, making sure that bikes understand where the bike route is and where they connect to the Greenway, for example, and how far it is, which is the piece we haven't done. If you want to look at a pilot, our Art to Heart trail that goes from downtown to the North Carolina Museum of Art was where we tried some of those signs, and we were working with our communications department and with the sign shop on what those signs need to look like right now. In fact, it's going to be, it got referred to the planning committee of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission at their last meeting, and they're going to be looking at how we choose destinations to go on those signs this month.
Thanks, Paul. The next question is from Scott Lane about Atlantic Avenue. And Scott, if you don't mind unmuting and turn on your camera and asking that directly, I would so appreciate that. There you are.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking my question. I got yard work going on outside here, so I apologize for background noise. But yeah, Atlantic is interesting. There's been a lot of work obviously done on bike lanes to the south going into downtown, but trying to get up through there to around the notorious intersection with the on-ramp to Capitol, going underneath the overpass of Capitol. It's tight there. There was some redesign work done to make a southbound right turn only lane onto the Capitol ramps that I questioned if it was really worth it. Space is at a premium underneath those bridges. That's probably one of the biggest constraints I'd imagine on that corridor. But getting through there and up to all the way even to not loading dock, but also even to Six Forks would be great. That's a potentially major corridor that's redeveloping very quickly. So love any thoughts on that. And if you want any volunteer time from me, I'm happy to weigh in more detail. Thanks.
Yeah. So our initial thought on Atlantic was that we would be able to do a roundabout at that intersection, and we would be able to do a road diet going north. So the double-edged sword of all that new development is they are helping us get little pieces and parts of better infrastructure, but they are also bringing additional traffic that made the road diet infeasible. And so without the road diet, we're looking at a major capital project to be able to thread something through there. And we are looking to get from roughly Lewisburg or Automotive all the way to Highwoods is the corridor that we're scoping, because we are getting an additional project from Highwoods North already.
And with the resurfacing, you should add that there will be conventional lanes added in the next few months, which is a good interim improvement. Even though we'd love to see all ages and abilities infrastructure, that will be like a continuation of the Wake Forest corridor, which is awesome. Yeah.
It's not going all the way up, but we're getting as far as we could with the pavement that we have.
To Whitaker Mill Road, right?
That sounds right. And I think slightly past it.
Okay.
Okay, Mary, I'd like you to answer this next question from Gary Held.
Mm-hmm.
I live off Creedmoor Road and don't feel comfortable riding in traffic. Is it okay, i.e. legal, to carefully take the sidewalk on my bike?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, that goes back to one, if you are on the sidewalk, you do need to be a little bit more cognizant of all the curb cuts because you're traveling at a lot faster speed than a pedestrian would be. I can tell you, with two little kids, we're on the sidewalk as much as my 3-year-old, she always asks to go on the road. I'm like, all right, sunshine, you need to slow, pump the brakes a little bit there. Yes, you can absolutely go on a sidewalk, but be more aware. I mean, Paul, he might have some legalese he's gonna come at you with, but the bottom line is that ride where you feel comfortable, recognizing that the sidewalk has different constraints. In North Raleigh, up an arterial road, you're not gonna feel comfortable in the road. That's where I would be, is on the sidewalk. So Paul's take coming in hot.
So yeah, it is legal to ride on the sidewalk in Raleigh unless a bike lane is present. That is actually part of city code, and I'm working to try and change that. We've already had some draft language through our legal department. They're making sure that there aren't other places in the city code that reference that specifically. But it's a really, really old piece of city code. It also references that you can't ride bikes on the Fayetteville Street Mall, which has been gone for over a decade and a half now. So we are working to correct that. We do ask, though, that if you are riding on the sidewalk, that you do yield to pedestrians.
Of course.
Oh, that raises a question in my mind, Paul, when you said that. So I also heard that if there's a bike lane on the road and you don't feel safe riding in that big bike lane, that you can ride on the road besides where the bike lane is.
Yeah,
like if it's in the door zone, for example.
Yeah, that is correct. North Carolina law says you are welcome to take the lane. Again, you might be getting ready to make a left-hand turn. There's lots of reasons why you would be in the road. I would warn you that not all motorists understand that, and they don't understand why you're not in the bike lane. You might get some pushback from people behind you, but you are entitled to it legally.
Okay, another looks like comment from Scott Lane. I would love to see North Salisbury and Wilmington be given the separated bike lane two-way treatment, and B, ultimately a more boulevard style total redesign. Very low vehicular volumes, lots of pedestrians crossing over to Halifax from the parking deck, transit corridor, major gateway to downtown from the rapidly growing Peace Street area. Lots of work on there. Yes, sir. Any comments on that for first Paul, then Mary?
Yeah, real quickly, that particular corridor always has one problem around the legislature. The legislature owns those streets. It's not even an NCDOT road. It's actually owned by the General Assembly. And it's made it very difficult for us to do any kind of bike lanes on that one block there around the legislative building. So I'm always going to have to work around that pitfall unless something drastic changes. That said, really, it's a function of what fits between the curbs. I don't know that I would do a two-way there. I found, at least with the Harrington Street pop-up, that our downtown has a lot of curb cuts, and transitioning bikes in and out of a two-way on one side ends up creating more problems than it solves. But doing something separated with the existing lanes that are there is certainly not off the table.
And I just popped the bike plan in the comments too, so people can reference like what the strategic plan is for the city, because I find it to be a helpful document.
Oh, thanks for that, Mary.
Are there details
Okay.
on which parts the legislature owns? So if we want to go advocate to folks, we can do so?
Oh yeah, if you write it now, it's the part with no bike lanes. It's Jones, is it Jones? Is it Lane? I think it's Jones and Lane. They own that block.
Yeah,
and it has a lot of on-street parking for legislators, so don't get your hopes up.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Thanks, Barnaby. Mary, question for you. Can you speak more to the cargo bike? I would like to hear about that as well, such as how easily it is to navigate, how bulky it is on bike lanes, ease of finding bike parking, etc.
Yeah, totally. So I have a cargo bike that's like a bucket bike where they have two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back, which definitely navigates differently than a conventional two-wheeled bike. Again, I want to reference the event we have on Sunday, because we're actually going to have 4 different models of cargo bikes there that are electric assists for families that might want to try out a cargo bike, because for our family, it was really helpful. A neighbor of ours already had this model, so we could just hop on it, check it out, throw the kids in there, see how it felt for us and if it was going to work for us. So that's really a helpful way to get a feel for a cargo bike. But we've definitely, thank you very much, Paul, for adding additional cargo bike parking. That's something we see popping up around town, which is awesome. The bike lanes, the bumps are like on a bucket bike. It is different like than on my bike. And like I have noticed with some of our separated infrastructure, we just pop the bollards down and don't like resurface resurface the street beforehand. So that could be something going forward that would be a better way to make it all ages and abilities if we allocated some funding for like resurfacing the streets as we come along. Because I do definitely, my kids actually call me out when I hit a bump. Boom, sorry. But yeah, I love our cargo bike. And if anybody ever wanted to test ride it, just send me a note and I would bring it over to you.
Oh, that's great service, Mary. Thanks. Okay, I've got a question for Chris Anderson. Chris, can e-bikes be brought to track for repair and maintenance, or does it have to be to a special manufacturers only or something like that?
Some manufacturers do use a proprietary system, which you may have to go back to that store or dealer to get serviced. We work with Bosch and Shimano e-bike systems, and we have the technology to work with those two directly. Other systems from Specialized Bicycles or Pedigo, you would have to go back to that dealer for services on those bikes. And a quick
Thanks
question for you.
Go ahead.
Mary, do you need any more e-bikes out at your demo?
Yeah, I'll send you a note. We can connect if you guys are available. We have like 14 right now, but it's always great to have more.
Thank you for that, Chris. I was just thinking when Mary was saying that, I was going, oh gosh, I wish I had volunteered to call Chris and ask him to come. So that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Erin Morton, she is, and I love this question because it sort of appeals to me as well. Thanks for all the great information. As a new and somewhat timid bike commuter, I am looking for any and all tips to increase comfort and safety during the ride. How do you regular bike commuters combat a rainy ride? And top 5 recommendations for gear accessories that make for a nicer commute.
Yeah, maybe I'll tag team this with Paul because I know, and Chris, and anybody else who wants to contribute because I know they'll have thoughts. So I think definitely the rain little slicker thing was that thing you put in the back wheel of your help me out.
Fender?
Thank you. I knew it would be helpful. That's really a helpful thing to pop on the back for rain. Our family is pretty just like pragmatic about it. We find as we go out and we get wet, then we modify, maybe we buy a rain jacket that might be nice for biking. Like you can definitely invest in some really nice, I think it's Showers Pass is a nice brand for bike riding gear for rain. It's kind of pricey. So like, I wouldn't advise starting there. I mean, funny enough, like my husband on his first bike commute when it's raining, he like put a garbage bag over his body. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's time to upgrade. So I think as you go out there and experience these things, there are ways you can tweak. But as far as the top 5, do you want to help me, Paul, with the list here? So fenders or some type of rain jacket, some type of thing to cover your feet, maybe to keep them from getting wet.
Yeah, and I can't stress lights, because one of the things that happens when there is rain, cars are also affected by that. So if you're riding in traffic, make sure that you can be seen. In fact, I don't mind getting wet. My biggest worry is, again, the reduced visibility. So lights and anything reflective are high recommendations for me. So my rain jackets are like super bright yellow and reflective, and it's like they may or may not keep me dry, but they'll keep me safe.
Good point.
And I think for me, it's seasonal. If it's in the summer and I get caught in a thunderstorm, sometimes I'm kind of glad and I just get wet and it's fine. The only thing I'd say is when you get home, make sure you get your shoes dry if you've got special bike shoes or anything that you wear.
If you're going to work, have a change of clothes. Like if you know that you don't mind getting wet on the way in. I mean, depending on how professional your job is, maybe take the bus that day.
Yeah, and that is the other one is bike on bus is a great thing. If I don't mind riding in the rain, but I don't ride in thunderstorms. That's just scary. And the bus is your friend. So if you've got any kind of bus pass, or just make sure you have some bus fare and you can put your bike on the bus and get to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And just on a side note, and we spoke with about the racks on the buses, not accepting the e-bikes. Most bike racks don't accept e-bikes because of the weight of those bikes. So be cautious if you are a commuter and you have an e-bike, you're going to be stuck in the rain.
Thanks for the reminder, Chris. Yes, indeed. They're just a little heavier and it makes a difference with those Go Raleigh bike racks.
Yeah, and if you are on the Greenway in the rain, just watch the wooden deck bridges. They can be slick. Again, just kind of slow down and hold a straight line as much as you can, and you should be fine.
And good advice in the comments too about making sure that there's some like basic bike maintenance. That could be another conversation, but as far as leaving your chain and just giving it a quick wipe down if it does get wet, that can make your bike happier.
Yeah, that's a great thing about the bike community. They're very good about helping one another. Okay, let's see. It looks like, oh yeah, this one kind of made me cringe a little bit here. From Brian, how do we ensure buses, delivery vehicles, etc., don't park in the bike lanes on Blunt Person Street? Anybody?
Oh, that's been hot. In fact, that went to a councilman, that went to my director, and it's rolling downhill. The answer is we really can't. We just don't have the staff. Particularly on Sundays, Raleigh's traditionally kind of look the other way, particularly for church parking. And to be honest, we don't want to poke that bear. We could end up losing bike lanes. So I would just say if it's on a Sunday, go around. We're really better off if everybody just says, we'll continue to live with that for a little while longer. Someday the currents may change, but right now is not the time. Outside of that, if you're in downtown, we have had to reduce our parking staff. A lot of people aren't going to work. Our parking revenues are down quite a bit. We've had to lay off some staff, so there aren't as many people going out and issuing tickets. But normally, if you're in downtown, we've got people on the street and we're able to issue citations, and it moves pretty quick outside of Sunday. If you're in an area outside of downtown proper, that's enforced by Raleigh Police Department. The complaints go to them. Sometimes they might not make it out there while the violation's happening and no ticket gets written. So again, it's really sort of hit or miss. We do our best, but we don't have really the staff resources to devote to it that I think a lot of people would like. And that's just the reality.
Yeah, I would add, I got that feedback about the church parking as well on Morgan Street. I was told like 2 years ago as a BPAC commissioner, like that was something that wasn't worthwhile to press on, wasn't worthwhile to ask on. I think from an advocacy standpoint, I would encourage you to advocate for the solutions that you would like to see. So reach out to your council members. If you're a City of Raleigh resident, or if you live in a different municipality, it's very important to voice your concerns and to let them know that as a bike rider, you don't feel safe when you have to merge into traffic, et cetera. So definitely understand the constraints Paul's referencing, and it's a compromise, everything always is, but I think that you have to voice the concerns just so people know that they exist.
Okay, well, that's it for our questions. I'm going to let Jana say our final word, and thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you. We made good time. 12:59 here on my clock. So anywho, please contact us at commute@raleighnc.gov if you have any additional questions. And we're also going to send out an email to you with all our speakers' contact info and a survey as well, which would be very helpful to us if you could fill that out so we can gauge all our Bike Month events. And remember, you can check out all the other Bike Month events at raleignc.gov /bike-month for more free bike events that we have in the month of May. And anyways, everyone have a great day. Happy Bike Month and happy cycling.